Well, it has been a shaky afternoon for many of you. People are being warned to watch out for aftershocks after a strong earthquake hit the central North Island this afternoon. The magnitude 6.2 quake centred about 25 kilometres southwest of Taumaranui, and it was widely felt across central New Zealand. Officials say there are no reports of damage so far. In Parliament, National List MP Alfred Naro was addressing the House at the time, and if you're watching, you can see the camera moving at the moment the earthquake struck. Parliament was briefly suspended. Further north, a Taumaranui local says this afternoon's earthquake made the second story of his home sway from side to side. Adrian Doyle said the deep quake lasted a long time.
It wasn't a particularly strong quake, but it was a long and protracted slow rolling quake. I'm on a second story of my house, and it was definitely swaying from side to side. I hopped under the desk and then realised that wasn't probably the most prudent place to be because it's not a very strong desk. So hopped in the doorframe and waited it out.
At the local paper plus, Anne Cribb didn't feel the quake, but she knew something was going on.
We have the Christmas lights still up, but we don't have them on, and he said, look at the lights. And they were shaking, and then I stood and I could feel it, but it was quite deep. And then I turned around and all our cartridges were shaking. They were all rocking backwards and forwards on the back wall. But I couldn't feel it where I was standing. And then we had a customer come in. She said, but I can't feel it. So it kind of stopped, but the cartridges on the wall were still going.
Gil McCann works at a sports store down the road and says clothing was rattling on the racks.
Well, some of our clothes started to shake a little, nothing violent, just a little bit of a movement that I thought was unusual. I could feel a very small shake, but we get trains go past regularly and they shake the place up a lot more than this earthquake did.
And Paul Redstall from Raurimu, a small town half an hour south of Taumaranui, told our reporter Emma Hatton the consistent long shaking was unlike anything he'd felt before.
It wasn't like, a normal earthquake. It was very consistent. And, the rolling and the motion of it was very consistent. There wasn't any sort of big rise and then, slow tapering off aftershock or anything like that. It was just almost a consistent rolling. So, yeah, it's a new one for me.
So what could you see? Were things moving in your home or outside?
Yes, we're surrounded by forest, so I kept an eye out on some fairly tall kahikatea trees just to see if they were moving, but there was no movement in the forest outside, and things like lampshades and bits and pieces were just wiggling. It really wasn't. There wasn't a large shock. It was enough to make our dog bark. I said to my wife at the time, I wonder where this is centred, because we don't feel, it didn't feel like we were very close to the centre of the earthquake, because there was no severe jolt. It was just a really quite a gentle rocking and rolling.
Further south in the Huru Whenua town of Levin, Louise Davidson says she got a bit of a fright and considered ducking under a nearby table.
We had a rock first and then another one, so they were just a few seconds long but quite strong. We're kind of slow, so the first time we realised it was rocking, and the second time, it was over so quickly, but we've got pretty sturdy tables here, so we were ready to go under, but we didn't need to.
And this woman in Blenheim says it was enough to force her to take action.
We felt the first one, you know how you do, and you think, oh yeah, it's still going, you can feel it rolling, but then you sort of wait, and next minute you feel the other one shake, and obviously you sort of wait, you sort of just, how big's this going to get, and then ducked under the desk, basically. Yeah, so it was a good jolt. Gives you a little fright because, once you've had that other one, yeah, you wonder whether it's going to stop.